opening, grand closing.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers, your only friend in these YouTube streets, Porter Rock 77. And thank you for checking out this video. I hope it's enlightening a bit. If you're new to the channel, of course, I hope you stick around. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you take a chance to look at my other content, recent content. And if you enjoy it, subscribe, hit the like button, and we'd like to see you stick around, especially for my podcast every Tuesday, 60 Frames No Like podcast, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and then of course my Friday night lives on Fridays, same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But what I like to do is give my after, well, not so much afterthoughts of my recent debate. That I had on Friday Night Live. So for those of you that don't know, I had Josh Edits, primarily from Twitter. He also has a YouTube account. He accepted a challenge of a debate. He's probably one of the few people in years or in a while that would actually come to a debate. We had a debate. The conversation lasted 8 hours. It was long. It's a long stream. 8 hours. It's a long stream, right? Um, First critique is his setup. He had bad Wi-Fi, so he was cutting in and out a lot, and I think that contributed to the extended length because we would have to repeat, retalk, re-say stuff. So that was unfortunate. I wish he had better. I wish he would have had better connectivity because I think it would have flowed much more smoother. But overall, I will say this: some people found it entertaining, funny, whatever. But overall, if you see the stuff, you saw that it was pretty much a one-sided debate. To give you a little background on how I do when I host debates, which is rarely because rarely any people accept debates anymore. Um, I always have the guest comes up with the topic. That's the first rule. I will not come up with the topic. The people who comes up with the topic is usually the guest or the audience, like the chats and maybe through super chat and stuff like that. But it will not be me. And the reason why I don't do it, at least on my channel, I won't do it, is because I don't want to give the audience the impression that I'm stacking the deck in my favor. I feel that if I come up with the topics, people would think that I would come up with topics that I know I'm going to win, which makes me look good. So I don't do that. So whenever I invite somebody for a debate, they're the ones that's going to have to pick the topics. They're the ones. Let them pick it. That way, no one can ever make the claim that I'm stacking the deck in my favor. Not going to happen. All right. So Josh at it, you know, was challenged. He accepted it. He created the topics, right? He created also multiple topics, but some of the topics weren't debate topics. They were just asking about me and my opinion. That's not a debate. You can't debate my opinion on what I like and what I do. That doesn't make sense. But I did answer his questions though, so I think that was just more curiosity rather than debate. But the topics he did pick the debate, it was his. It was all his, right? And he didn't do too well to that, right? So I'll start with this. The first step, I think everyone who saw the debate, and I see, of course, people are going to throw shots, throw jokes at him and stuff like that, critique and all that stuff. But the one thing I want to say to the community is at least give him the props that he showed up to the debate. And I will say this is important. And that's the important part about the first step in a debate when a person actually accepts the debate, right? Number one, if a person accepts the debate, it's probably because they actually believe in what they say, right? Even if what they're saying is wrong, but they believe it and they're willing to discuss it, right? That's the one thing about a debate when somebody accepts it or willing to debate. They actually believe what they say, right? And in their mind, in their perception, or even in my perception, when I accept the debate, it's because I feel my viewpoint is true, right? Which means I'm not making up BS. Because then when a person tells me a debate, I'm gonna be like, oh snap, hell nah, you're not gonna call me out on my BS, no, you know what I'm saying? So he accepted the debate because he felt his points was right. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing I appreciate. That whether it's wrong or incorrect, it doesn't matter. He did it because he believed he had correct points that can be debated, right? So that has to be respected, So I say, for everyone who saw the stream, and of course you're talking shit, but if you're gonna talk shit, which is fine, or critique them, it happens, like my Knicks lost. So everybody's talking shit about the Knicks. Yankees got destroyed by the Dodgers yesterday, 18-2, talking shit, whatever. People gonna talk trash or whatever, whatever. Especially if you don't like the council war, or you like get into the council war, but you don't like the group they represent, whatever the reason. But at least we can all appreciate and say, man, Josh, you really suck. You got destroyed. But you know what? You showed up, dog. So you gotta at least acknowledge and give them the props to say, you know what, Josh, you were, a lot of people saying you were just out of your depth, but he showed up to play. He showed up to the fight. He didn't back down. You understand what I'm saying? He showed up, right? And again, the first part is you show up because you believe what you think is right, and you're ready to argue that. The number two part about accepting a debate, and I feel like this is probably even more important than number one, is you are willing to listen. Because that's another thing about the debate. Now you're willing to listen to your opponent and hear their thoughts. And of course, you come in thinking, can I challenge that viewpoint? Can I debate that viewpoint? Can I counter that viewpoint? But you have to listen, which is probably the most important part of the debate, is the listening part. What is the person trying to say, right? And when you hear a person live on air, on a mic, in a regular voice conversation, is totally different than reading text on Twitter or reading a post, right? Because when you read a post, some people will interject their context of what they think the person is saying instead of accepting and listening and understanding what the person said. You don't know how many times I write on Twitter, I say something, and they come up with a completely different point of my thing. Oh, so what you're saying is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I could say, man, chocolate ice cream is delicious. I love it. It's my favorite flavor of ice cream. A person comes out, well, what the hell's wrong with vanilla? Are you saying that vanilla is trash? That vanilla can't be a great flavor? You see, that's what they do. They extract something that's not there, and that happens all the time on Twitter, right? But when you do a live and you do a live debate, you can't do that because you sound stupid. Because live on air right now, I'd be like, oh, chocolate ice cream's delicious. You know what I'm saying? And I love it as a milkshake. Imagine a person immediately responding with, oh, so you're saying vanilla ice cream sucks? That it can't be a great milkshake flavor? When you actually hear a conversation like that, you will look at the person like, what the hell is this person talking about? Vanilla ice cream wasn't even mentioned or anything like that, right? So that's what's good about debating on a live air. You have to listen, you have to understand, right? And if you catch the person not understanding, you could correct them right there on the spot. And they can't go nowhere. They can't hide. They can't disappear. They can't delete their tweets. They can't do none of that. And the audience hears it and listens, right? And what that does is the audience gets to understand the person's thinking. Is it logical, or does this person not know what they're talking about? Whatever. You get to see it formulate and being creative live on air. That's why I say, hey, debate's the spot. If you think you're good, you think you have knowledge, you think you got your stuff, get off of Twitter, hop on the channel, whatever. That's the beauty about my channel. My channel has always been anybody could come, anybody. My channel's not reserved for other YouTube, strictly reserved for other YouTubers or big personalities. Or no. Some of the panel members literally came out of the chat, out of the blue. No channel, no nothing. We talk. All of a sudden, I get DMs like, hey, yo, Porter, I really don't agree with that. Can I hop on your show? Because I really didn't talk about this. I'm like, cool. Link it up. See you next week. Boom. They're on the channel. Now, all of a sudden, they're doing more. Maybe they started their own channel and stuff like that. And I'm not taking credit for their creation. I'm just saying that, if people have bright ideas and think they have knowledge and they're willing to talk, do it all the time, right? But for those who don't like my points or think my points are BS, then let's go into debate. Challenge those ideas. That's why I say you guys bring the guest brings up the topic. Because clearly you don't like some of the things I said on certain topics. So more often than not, I would think the things you don't like I said, probably those are the topics you should come up and challenge the things I say with those topics and come up with your viewpoints, right? But you got to give Josh, he showed up, he did it, right? The critique I would say about with Josh is he really doesn't know a lot about gaming from the conversation he gets involved with, right? I think he's a gamer in the sense that he's just passionate. He likes to play games and stuff like that. He likes to talk shit. He likes to joke, whatever. But like, for example, he didn't even know PlayStation 1 was the first console to sell 100 million, which, that's like fundamental basic information when it comes to, if you want to talk about the industry, if you want to talk about the state of gaming and all that stuff, right? Then you got to have a little background information. You got to see how, some live through the generations. Like I said, I lived through the generations of Nintendo, of NES, Super NES, and stuff. But I can't say I understood the industry of that time. I didn't, because I was a kid. I was younger. I actually started following gaming beyond just playing games and stuff like that, like the industry side. And I said this story, man, it's been a while since I said this, right? I said this years ago and stuff like that. But started following the business side, the industry side, the trend side, the sell side during the PS1 gen. So it's not a YouTube thing, it's not a grifting thing. That some people say. I've been doing it since PS1, just reading magazines and stuff like that, right? And then when, I finally hopped on to the internet and, actually got my, computer with internet and started getting 56K internet and hopped on the internet. I think it was 2000 is when I first got internet in my house. Well, really, I was in the barracks at the time, but I bought like a $600 PC and installed it, and I got like 56K internet service. And now I'm on the internet for the first time, right? And of course, you do the stuff like the AOL chat and Yahoo chat and try to hook up and mi gente, Black Planet. If you know, you know, right? Mi gente, Black Planet. If you know, you know. Right now, somebody laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about between AOL channel that stuff. Right? Everybody wants to hook up, but anyway. But I also started looking like more gaming information stuff like that. And back in 2000, I started learning about NPD and sales charts and mind share, market share, and all that stuff. Right? So I've been interested in that side of gaming. Oh my God, like 25 years, more than 25 years, because like I said, I started with the PS1 and N64. Now you're probably asking why, Porter Rock, why did you get interested on that side of the gaming? Why didn't you just stay playing games and enjoying games and stuff like that? Well, the answer is it's because I enjoyed all types of games and all that stuff. What was happening and I didn't understand was, why did certain things in gaming just stop whenever it got off the foot of ground? And what I mean by that is I had the Sega CD and I thought it was great, but not a lot of games was for that. I had the bazooka for the Super NES. If y'all remember the bazooka, that thing was awesome. The games was fun. The problem is there wasn't a lot of games made for that, right? What else I had? I had the Sega 3D glasses with the gun remote. Not a lot of games were made for that. I had Rob the Robot. Not a lot of games were made for Rob. That was supposed to be your boy to play games. Yeah, nope. So there was a lot of things in gaming that could come out. The what was it? What was the attachment for the Genesis? It was the 32-bit attachment. I forgot what it was called, but there was an attachment that you would add to the 32X, I think it was called, or something like that. I forgot the name, but it was an attachment you add to your Sega Genesis, and now you can start playing 32-bit gaming, supposedly, right? That wasn't supported, so it was just a lot of things, right? That wasn't supported. It was just, and I was always wondering, like, man, so many great things, and it would just fall off, and it's like, why? So then I started looking into that, and that led me into the whole market analysis of gaming, market share, sales analysis, game penetration. Why would a publisher make a game for the bazooka, and the bazooka only sold 100,000, 200,000 units, yet the platform, the Super NES, sold 50 million? Why would you make a game for 200,000 people when you can make a game for 50 million people, right? So I'm like, oh man, I get it now. Now at least I understand why make a game for the Sega CD when the Sega CD sold like a million, maybe. I'm just making up numbers, but like a million units. Yet the Genesis is at 50 million. Why would you make a game and you restrict it to just the Sega CD? You understand what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, now I get it. You're right. So those things answered my questions on a lot of issues I had, and then I just kept learning more and more and more about it. So gaming knowledge was always something I always followed, stuff like that, right? But with Josh, I don't think he was like that. I don't think he follows much gaming knowledge other than what he gets from content creators. And that's where, I'm gonna believe it or not, Josh is not alone in this. This is why I think a lot of gamers just don't know nothing. Because I think a lot of gamers are getting their knowledge from content creators. And depending on the content creator, you're gonna get a content creator that actually analyzes and looks into information and provide references, which is what I try to do. And then you got content creators that primarily just talk shit and grift and solved all this stuff, right? On some of their stuff. And what it does is it emotionally engages with the audience, but it doesn't really teach the audience anything. Right. Perfect example is Microsoft going third party. Microsoft putting all these games on PlayStation. This should not have been a surprise. I'm gonna be honest, it shouldn't. I am shocked at how many people, even some of the bigger content creators, even the people who hosted Xbox podcasts. Those to me are the biggest one, like the Ryan McCaffreys and the Dustin Legarys, Brad Sams. You guys shocked me the most because you guys should have been the very first to be telling people, yeah, these games are coming to PlayStation. You guys should have been the very first, not me. You guys should have been the very first because the way I predicted Microsoft going this route was not really hard. It's actually probably one of the easiest things to do. I know some people are like, "Oh my God, Puerto Rico, how were you able to predict this?" I'm like, it wasn't really hard, right? It's really simple. If your primary business is a console and the console's not selling, your business is in trouble. And now, and when you have a whole generation where your console's not selling, and then you start the second generation and it's in trouble again, you have to come up with a new idea. It's inevitable. You don't have a choice. You just can't keep failing and just sit there and watch. You probably have to abandon the idea. And when you abandon the idea of consoles, the idea is then go third party. It wasn't really hard to guess that, right? And then the signs was there listening to Xbox exec. In 2023, when Tim Stewart said once would be competitors, such as PlayStation, Nintendo, meaning he officially told the world, or really told his investors, right? Because he was talking to investors. He told investors PlayStation and Nintendo, they're not considered competitors to Xbox no more. They're just not. They're just people with devices that, Microsoft could take advantage of. That right there should have signaled to Destin Legary. It should have signaled to Brad Sams, to Ryan McCaffrey, instantly saying, "Oh snap! If Microsoft doesn't see PlayStation as a competitor, that means they're going to put their games on PlayStation because there's no reason not to. You no longer see them as competition. You see them as devices you can take advantage of. They should have been the first one to start educating the community, but they didn't. They damage control, or they say alternate stuff, or they try to resist the inevitable. And what happens is people who listen to them, they adopt those ideas because that's who they're learning from. So now that's what they learn, and now they go on the internet and they talk like that. And then when those guys talk to a guy like me, I crush them. They get mad at me saying I'm a fanboy. I don't know what I'm talking about. But then it actually happens, and now where we're at, everybody disappears and forgets whatever. So there's a lot of gamers, I would say, like Josh, probably don't do their own research. They don't do their own, fact checks and stuff like that. So that way they can formulate their own opinion. They probably just listen to content creators, their favorite ones, and they learn and adopt the viewpoints of their favorite content creator because that's what they like. They like what they hear and stuff. But then when you debate them, and they're trying to debate viewpoints that they learn from other people without checking the validity of themselves, it ends up as something like it ends up what we got. Ends up people showing that, yeah, you really don't know what you're talking about. In fact, some people even online saying that it sounds like those viewpoints aren't even his. um, they said it sounds like Alex, but he doesn't really understand, right? If, like, say for example, Ono is Alex. If you're trying to adopt Ono is Alex viewpoint, you're gonna fail because those are his points. He can argue it because he probably believes in his viewpoints and he can articulate it because he formulated it into his own thing. With me though, I don't formulate viewpoints that are personal opinion as much. I mean, I do, but what I try to teach you is with data and analysis and sometimes history, right? That's why I love to go back and talk about the last generation, 360 generation, PS2 generation, because sometimes things history repeats itself. So when people say, "Oh yeah, if this happens, this won't necessarily happen," I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 not necessarily true. In fact, it already happened, and not in the way you show." Perfect example. Josh said, "Well, thought that any console that's new is not going to come out and be a top seller because it's new." But that's not necessarily true because look at the PS1. It was a brand new console. It was the first console, first gaming platform for a PlayStation, and it sold 100 million right off the gate and blew Nintendo X64 out the box. Crush, not Dreamcast, but crush Saturn and then 64. You see what I'm saying? But you won't know that unless you you wouldn't be able to know that unless you knew the success of the PS1. So in Josh's mind, yeah, he probably believed that new platforms can't, you know, just can't be successful out the gate. That it might take time for them to get people to know them. But he thought that because he didn't know the PS1 was a successful platform right out the gate. Right now, he in a podcast, I mean, in the debate, he mentioned Magic Games. Like Magic Games don't sell consoles or help consoles get out of ruts and stuff. But that's not true because that's literally what happened with the PS3. PS3 was in a bad place. And then they got out of the rut because of Magic Games. And PlayStation was able to get its shine back because of Magic Games. Games that exclusives that people wanted and got the mind shut back. But if you don't know and study this stuff for yourself, you wouldn't know. Therefore, you would come up with this Magic Games don't help consoles because you don't know the history or stuff, right? In fact, if you look at every generation, the consoles that were the most popular, none of them were the most popular because of the hardware. They weren't the most powerful or had the best features. They were the ones with the most exclusives, and the most exclusives, the most games. That's it. So it showed repeatedly, generation after generation after generation, the console with the perceived best games and exclusives and the games everybody wants to play, those are the sellers. Not so much the features and stuff, right? But if you don't know that, if you didn't study that or look it up or try to research it, you wouldn't know. And therefore, you will come up with a totally different conclusion, right? And some of these podcasters don't really talk about that, right? Some of these podcasters are PlayStation haters or whatever, or anti-PlayStation, or just don't like PlayStation, or just want to make content to bash PlayStation because the clicks are the most. They're not going to talk about those stuff because a lot of those points really skew in PlayStation in a positive favor, right? So they don't really want to go there and stuff like that, right? But with Josh, what I want to say is, what I have already said is you got to give the props. Um, you got to give him the props to show up, right? Hopefully, he learned a few things. Maybe not. But this opens the opportunity for more debates, right? Now I'm liking the energy I'm seeing on Twitter. Now I'm seeing more and more people like, oh yeah, get the debates going, right? I see people tagging other people saying challenge Porter Rock, right? And whatever, whatever. I'm gonna tell you, a lot of them won't. They're not gonna take it. They're not. All right. They're not gonna do what Josh did. Because I will say, as much as some people say, oh, Josh talks shit and makes jokes, whatever, but I think he really believed in what he thought. And because he believed in what he thought that, hey, I'm gonna go on a debate and we're going to talk it out. And overall, it wasn't a nasty debate of people just yelling at each other. We kept it cordial. The only issue was his internet. He was just cutting in and out. When I host a debate, I let the people talk. I don't cut them off. Let them say their points. Fully believe in allow them to say their points, of course, right? But I guarantee some of my haters' favorite content creators, they'll probably tell him, hey, yo, go to Puerto Rock and debate. And they'll be like, nah, I ain't doing that. Debates are stupid, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to say that. They're going to say that, right? But the reality is they don't want their viewpoint challenged because their viewpoints ain't genuine to begin with. A lot of viewpoints cater to the emotion side of their fan base because they know it's what their fan base wants to hear. They're placating to their emotions. They're not going with the facts. They're not going with the data. They're not going with the analysis. They're not talking about the reality. They're just bringing up, things they want to hear. Oh, Sony's dead. Their live service is going to kill the brand. Sony's in trouble. They're going to need Xbox in a couple of years. That's what that audience wants to hear because it makes them feel good. But if you bring that to a debate, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get absolutely mollywopped on that one. It's going to be a brutal slaughter because it's not true. And there's data and facts that prove things like that aren't true. But the thing is, they know that. They know the stuff they're saying ain't true. They know they're lying. They know they're making up bullshit. They know they're just placating to the audience because it makes the audience happy, and they come back to their channels, and that's fine. You know, you want to entertain. If you want to entertain your audience on the emotional level, you know what I'm saying. It is what it is. That's what the audience want. Provide the product your audience want, your customers want, your fan base wants. If they want their emotions to feel good, if they want to feel good content, they don't want reality. They don't want the realness. They don't want, that they don't like the real world of gaming and how things are in the real world. They want to live in this fantasy world where they feel good and things feel great among other people and you want to live in Shangri-La, then provide that content. Provide the Shangri-La content. Provide it. I mean, that's what they want. It's clearly what they sign up for. They'll subscribe to your channels. They'll do your super chats, memberships. They'll join your Patreon. They'll do all that. That's entertainment. Entertain them. But these entertainers are not going to come to the debate because they can't bring bullshit and lies to a debate. That's not how it works. And they don't want to look foolish in competition. So you're not going to see that a lot. But for those who are committed, for those who believe in their knowledge and think that I'm wrong, bro, if you think you got it, Friday nights. We could set it up. We'll set up schedule. In fact, I'm setting up another one. We'll see if it works out. Haven't seen him in a long time. But his name is He Bots Powerful Gamer. He used to be on a Xbox podcast with other Xbox guys. I forgot their names, whatever. But we'll see. Maybe he's trying to make a comeback. We'll see. But I told him he could pick 3 to 5 topics. Let me know, and we can arrange it for next Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And once again, we'll see if what they say is actually true, if it's actually knowledgeable. We'll see how it goes when we challenge these topics and opinions and stuff like that, because you get to see it. It's with clarity. And that's what I love about this. Twitter, you get to hide. Twitter, you could get to do all the dumb stuff. A person can make an opinion, you can twist it, you can do all that stuff, but you can't do that here. People will see you run away from the topic. People can literally see and hear you, moving goalposts, and you will get shamed live in front of the audience. You will get clowned live. So it's a totally different environment, totally different aspect. If you try to pull and argue like if you're still on Twitter, you're going to get smoked. You're going to look dumb. You're going to look ridiculous. So, hey, I'm going to push for that. I think it's time. I think we went too long without challenging people on their points. People ran to their echo chambers just so they could just say what they want to say with lack of accountability. Well, you know what? It is what it is. I'm all about the debates. You know what I'm saying? This is the shot across the bow, challenging anybody. And I guarantee some of you haters that are watching me right now, talking shit, saying, "Oh, you're full of shit, P-Rock, you don't know shit." I guarantee your favorite content creator won't step up to the mic and challenge me. Go ahead and ask them and see how they respond. Guaranteed they'll bow out. Guaranteed they'll give you excuse like, that's stupid, Puerto Rico, no shit, I'm not wasting my time, blah, 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 blah. Watch. They won't step up. Just letting you know. You know what I'm saying? I put the fear. I'm thinking I'm going to change my name. I'm going to change my slogan. Because my slogan is, your only friend, these YouTube streets. That's the slogan. Who knows? What slogan should I change it to? Puerto Rock 77. The dude that could crush your, I know, what you call it, 8 has a great one. I always loved, he has a great slogan. Your favorite content creator, favorite content creator. I was like, yeah, that was awesome. That's a good one. He has a great slogan. That's a great slogan. Your favorite content creators, favorite content creator. I was like, oh man, that shit's slick. That shit's hard and stuff like that. I don't know. But anyway, listen, I am still your only friend these YouTube streets, right? Giving you the right knowledge, making you guys stay educated and well informed, and I can crush your favorite content creator. I can crush them. So if you think I'm bullshitting, you go to your favorite content creator, you super chat them, and you tell them, yo, I need you to debate Puerto Rock. You even and tell them they could even pick the topics. That's key. They pick it. So that way, I'm not the one stacking the deck. They can pick it. They can pick the topics. And you'll see they'll run away. You'll see blah, 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 something. You'll see. And then you'll know who's the real deal. Anyway, my only friend is your only friend is YouTube Streets, Porter Rock 77. I'm out of here. But that's just some of my afterthoughts on the debate with Josh. All right. I hope to see you guys Tuesday. And with the panel, I want to see their opinion and stuff like that on the debate itself and just the overall debate scene and stuff. But anyway, until then, you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm out of here. Peace.
Grand opening, grand closing.